Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our study of the book of Psalms. Today we're in Psalm 33, and in this particular psalm, David is going to write concerning the sovereignty of God and the things that God has done that put him in that place of being high and holy, and that we must remember that he is in control. There are several things that David is going to consider, or that the writer of the Psalms is going to consider. We don't necessarily have it specifically attributed to David like we do many of the others. But there are many things uh, that we could pull out of this passage. It's a little bit longer, and so let's delve in to Psalm 33. Beginning in verse 1, we read, Rejoice in the Lord, O you righteous, for praise from the upright is beautiful. Praise the Lord with the harp. Make melody to him with an instrument of 10 strings. Sing to him a new song. Play skillfully with a shout of joy. For the word of the Lord is right, and all his work is done in truth. He loves righteousness and justice. The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord. By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. He gathers the waters of the sea together as a heap. He lays up the deep in storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spoke, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast. The Lord brings the counsel of the nations to nothing. He makes the plans of the peoples of no effect. The counsel of the Lord stands forever, the plans of his heart to all generations. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he has chosen as his own inheritance. The Lord looks from heaven. He sees all the sons of men. From the place of his dwelling he looks on all the inhabitants of the earth. He fashions their hearts individually. He considers all their works. No king is saved by the multitude of an army. A mighty man is not delivered by great strength. A horse is a vain hope for safety. Neither shall it deliver any by its great strength. Behold, the eye of the Lord is on those who fear him, on those who hope in his mercy, to deliver their soul from death, and to keep them alive in famine. Our soul waits for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. For our heart shall rejoice in him, because we have trusted in his holy name. Let your mercy, O Lord, be upon us, just as we hope in you. As you look at Psalm 33, you have here the writer looking at all of the different ways that God is to be praised, and that we should rejoice in the Lord. There's going to be a couple of different key elements in what it is that the psalmist portrays, and I want us to take a look at those for just a moment today. The first one is found in the creative power of God. When you drop down to verses 6 through 9, he says, By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. He gathers the waters of the sea together as a heap. He lays up the deep in storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spoke and it was done. He commanded and it stood fast. Here, the psalmist talks about the power of creation, that God had the ability to, by his word, create the heavens and the earth, which goes back to Genesis chapter 1. And so you have the affirmation here of the creative power of God, that by his word alone, he was able to bring things into place. And thus, the word of the Lord has a power beyond just what we would think of by the spoken word, that he is able to bring to bear his creative power simply by speaking it into existence. So we have the creative power being affirmed, but what about now? We've seen the power that God used in creating everything, but what about when you start talking about things like the sustaining power of God? And what I mean by that is the idea that who is it that sustains us? Who is it that takes care of us and watches over us? As you begin verse 10, this almost talks about how the Lord brings the counsel of the nations to nothing. He makes the plans of the peoples of no effect. In other words, man's plans versus God's plans are always going to win. God is going to be able to fulfill his purpose no matter what the opposition is. And the statement is made in verse 16: no king is saved by the multitude of an army. A mighty man is not delivered by great strength. A horse is a vain hope for safety, neither shall it deliver any by its great strength. Behold, the eye of the Lord is on those who fear him, on those who hope in his mercy. The principle that is being discussed here is the fact that it doesn't matter for a king how big your army is, how many horses you've got, how many strong men you have in your army. If God is against you, you will not succeed. He is the one who is going to be the sustainer. And certainly in the history of Israel, we find this to be the case. It doesn't matter whether Israel has numerical superiority, strategic superiority, or any other kind of advantage when they go into battle. If they don't have God on their side, they do not win. You think about the battle in the book of Joshua between the children of Israel and the city of Ai, and how the first time they go up, they don't have God on their side and they lose, even though they are a vastly superior military force. They are going to lose because there was sin in the camp. God is the sustainer. And there is no one who is going to succeed based solely upon their strength alone, especially in the long view of eternity. And so, as you see what the psalmist is saying here, he's talking about how we should rejoice. Remember, verse 1 says, rejoice in the Lord, O you righteous. That for the righteous, for those who are seeking to do what is right, there are many things that we can hold on to and that we can rejoice in when it comes to God. The first is his creative power. The fact that he is the one who has the power over everything that was made. And the second is his sustaining power. Because he talks about at the end, he says, for our heart, verse 21, shall rejoice in him, because we have trusted in his holy name. Let your mercy, O Lord, be upon us, just as we hope in you. He is the sustainer of all of our hopes and all of our efforts. These are the things that I see looking at Psalm 33, and there's, yes, a lot more details and things that we could consider. But I hope that these things have been beneficial to you. Next time, we'll come back and we'll begin looking at Psalm 34. I hope you'll join us then. But until then, have a great day.